What's going on, everyone? This is Evan Mayfield, and this show is called Restore Animation. I'm so excited to be launching this. A little bit nervous, first time streaming live, but we'll get over that as we get into the show, and I'm sure I'll loosen up a little bit. But what we're going to do today is we're going to discuss some different things about animation. There's going to be, talk about experiences on TV shows and movies. We'll have some interviews with artists eventually. And we're also going to jump into camera a little bit and talk about how camera can help us tell a really good story. One of the really unique things about this show is I'm not just going to be talking. I'm actually going to have Maya, the program that I use, up and active, and we're going to be working on something together. Feel free to comment live. This streaming platform has the ability to do that, so I can sort of answer questions and respond live as I do this. So with that said, let's just jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and show a scene that I'm working on currently. This particular project that I'm working on is called Kingdom of Dwarves. And so working on a short right now, a short film for the project, and it's coming along really, really well. So I can show you, this is the main character right here. And for those who are aware of this character knows that this character should have a beard on him. Looks a little funny without his beard on, but that's okay. Yeah, this is our main character, and I guess for everybody who doesn't know what Maya is or what this program is, this is sort of what a scene looks like. And as an animator, this is the way that I see it when I'm working. So basically, I've got this puppet in 3D space that allows me to move it over the course of time to bring animation and bring the characters to life. So as you can see, if I get in here and adjust some of these controls, you can see how it moves eyebrows up and down, or can move eyes left and right, that sort of thing. You even have the ability to move the mouth around and move the jaw around, that kind of thing. So today we're going to look at a shot from the short film that I'm working on currently. And this is a really cool shot. It's somewhere in the middle of the short film. And the reason I want to chat about it is it's a really cool shot where the camera is really sort of telling a story about this moment in time. Camera is so important when it comes to storytelling and animation. People don't think about it. They usually just think about characters moving around on screen. But really, what you do with your camera makes a big difference. And so we refer to that as cinematography, but people don't realize that that's a big part of animation. In animation, we call that pre-visualization. So getting the camera in place to do the work. Let me just pop back over here to the main channel. Okay, we've got 4 people watching today. Thank you guys. Feel free to jump in and add something in the chat. I'm going to add something in the chat here right now, so you guys can see that pop up. Awesome. All right, I am going to jump in. Oh, cool. Got these little react buttons. Let's see if I can get a clap before we get in. There we go. I need a little moral support before I jump in here on this scene. Okay, I promise I won't hit those too much. All right, let's take a look. So this particular shot, what's going to happen is in the short film, there's a fight sequence happening between 2 of these dwarves. And so I was trying to find a way to make this scene really epic and just sort of come to life. And so one of the things I did with the camera, as you can see here, there's a lot of cameras here, but the one we're looking at is this one right here. And so over the course of time, as this dwarf sort of stands up, I just sort of have the camera following the action of what's happening. And so I know this doesn't look too great. We're going to get into making this animation look better here in a second, but I wanted to talk about the camera first because I think it's important to understand what's happening there. So camera's sort of following up what's happening here in this animation with this dwarf, and he sort of settles in and smiles back at the other dwarf. So what does that look like in the actual shot that we're going to see in the short film? Let's take a look. I'm going to play this back pretty slowly so you guys get a better understanding. So dwarf stands up, the camera sort of rises up, and then we get a chance to focus in on his face, and we see him give a facial reaction. Pretty cool. Let's see if I can play this live. I don't know. It won't play. Let's see if I can change the settings to play back. Let's see if that allows it to play back. It's going to be a little bit slow, but you get the idea. Cool. And so I've got the beard turned off right now because it's really slow. It makes the scene slow and it keeps me from animating as quickly. So I have that turned off. So just keep that in mind as we do that. Also, it helps to see facial expressions because there's giant beard all over the place. I can't really see what I'm doing. So let's jump in here. First thing I want to do now that we've talked about cameras, I want to adjust this hand pose. This looks super messy. You can see the thumb is like colliding through this axe, which looks terrible. So let's clean this hand pose up. And the way we do that is we jump in here on these controls. Let's check this really quick. All right. Welcome to the channel, Carl and Chris. Thanks for hanging out. All right. So I'm going to go in here and adjust this hand pose, like I said, because it's just super messy. So let me get that up, sort of get this turned around. I think this is going to look a little bit better if it's not crashing through. One of the things we want to do too while posing this out is you want to make sure the silhouette's really clean. And so when I'm thinking about in a shot, looking at what's happening here, I want this to be a nice graphic shape because otherwise it just looks really messy. It looks like a tarantula holding onto this axe handle. So let me get this cleaned up really quick. Actually, not that quick. This takes a little while to do, but you will get the idea. Let's see. Okay, and then this last finger looks like it's gonna have some trouble. So let's go ahead and move this over. I remember I was talking about that graphic shape, so I want to see if I can't get these all tucked nice into a row like that. Let's see what that's looking like in the shot. It's looking better. I think that looks better. And then we'll tuck that pinky in and turn it in a little bit. So one of the things, I don't know if you guys have studied hands or anything like that, but hands have this interesting way when you grab something, I don't know. It's a good thing I can put up here. Oh, I've got a toy car. This is perfect. So depending on how you're grabbing something, you'll notice that this finger sort of turns in and when you put pressure on it to grab, and the pinky kind of does the same thing. So one of the things I can add to the scene is I'm sort of twisting the pinky a bit and tucking it in so that it really feels like he's holding on to this axe, which is supposed to be heavy, right? So we're faking all of this stuff. Obviously, there's no gravity here in the scene. I have to fake all of that and make that feel believable. So that's one of the things I'm doing right now. I'm finding though that I don't love that hand position. We might come back to that. I don't love this thumb. Actually, let me see if I can turn that really quick and see what happens. Yeah, I like that. It feels a bit more like, I don't know. Let's see. Kind of want to tighten it up a little bit. That feels broken though. Let's see. That's feeling a little better. Yeah, I like that better. Let's turn this finger in a little bit, like I said, just to make it feel more like he's grabbing it. Cool. Okay, so we've got that pose. What I need to do now is make sure this hand pose doesn't change over time. I want it to stay exactly the same. So I'm going to go in here and grab all the fingers. Just like this. All of these controls affect all of the pose that I just made. So I want to make sure I grab all of them right there. Cool. We like that pose. I'm going to delete. I think I'm going to delete everything. Yeah. I'm going to delete everything else that comes after this because I don't want it to change, right? So everything else gets deleted and that hand pose stays the same as it comes up. That's looking a lot better already. Cool. And so camera sort of comes up. The other hand looks fine. We get to see the axe. I think the axe looks cool. You know, it's coming down sort of at an angle, which is nice. It's not straight across. You want to make sure when you're designing shots and designing scenes that things aren't 90 degrees. So we've got a nice angle here on the axe, and it's sort of pointed towards camera a little bit, so we get that 3D element going. That's one of the things you want to keep in mind as you're animating, trying to find ways to make things feel more three-dimensional. You know, it's easy enough for me to take this axe and do something really boring with it, like, I don't know, is it going to let me select it? Let's see. Oh. Anyways, taking it and sort of having it flat facing to the camera would just be really boring. So just keeping that stuff in mind as we're going along here. Cool. So we get up here and we settle in the face. I'm going to try to see if I can't dial something in a little bit more interesting for him here. In the scene, I don't want to give too much away on the short film, but here we don't want to give or telegraph any sort of idea of what he's thinking, because at the end he's going to settle into like a really menacing smile, which is great, right? We're talking about storytelling. We're talking about this idea that we don't want to give too much away, that, you know, the different elements of the story need to come in right when we want them to. So I want him to have one expression at the beginning and then sort of transition into this expression that's like, you know, what we have here essentially. This is really tricky because I'm trying not to give too much away about the short film for the Kingdom of Dwarves folks that are joining the stream. I don't want to telegraph too much and give it away, because you guys are going to be seeing this short film in its final form soon. But I can't give away all the secrets. So all we need to know for right now is I need this to be sort of a, maybe I'll make it more of a worried expression. I think that would be better. Maybe not too worried. We'll play with it a little bit. I think what I want to do, though, I want to take the corners of this mouth and sort of bring them down a little bit. Let's see. Things seems to be working well. Okay, cool. So I'm going to bring the corner of these mouths down a little bit. Let's see if I could... No, I don't want to do that. I wanted to see if I could open this mouth just a little bit. Just a little bit. One of the things I'm trying to keep in mind, too, as well, is that he's going to have a beard on his face, and that covers up a lot of what's going on with the mouth. So I need to get most of this action or this posing mainly from his eyes. So if I want to make him worried, I can do something more like this. Let's see if I push this up. It's not really doing anything. Let's try to pull the outer brow down a little bit. Yeah. I want the audience to feel like he's worried a little bit or a little bit concerned about what's about to happen. But I don't want to go overboard. I want it to be a subtle change. So, I'm going to grab all these controls again and just make sure that this is the pose that we're going to get when we first see his face. Right here. So we're going to see that pose. So this is what I had before. This is what I have now. I need to plus that a little bit. That's a little strange. Let's see. Try to pull this down. It's making a weird shape right there. Something else that you have to keep in mind, you have to constantly sort of be looking at the final camera as opposed to just noodling over here. And this is our perspective camera, so anything can happen here. This is just so I can see what I'm doing. Anyways, that looks pretty good for now. So I'm going to grab all those controls again and just make sure that that is the pose that we get. And then it's going to sort of morph into this one. So I want to start like that. And it's going to sort of morph into that. What I'm seeing, that I'm going to try to see if I can't plus, is that his eyes get squinty. And so in order to get sort of a contrasting, I don't know, eye pose, I want to see if I can't open his eyes a little bit more. Maybe he's a little bit worried about, like I said, about what's happening. I don't know if this rig will let us do it though. Yeah, it'll let us do it a little bit. So I want him to be a little bit more afraid of what's coming. So let's get this eye pose open. Again, anything we can do to make one pose that's about to go into another pose have more distance to travel over time, the more interesting that animation can be. It's not always true, but it's something I definitely like to think about when I'm posing this stuff out. Okay, so when you come up here, thinking about having these eyelids do this, let's get rid of that one. Oops. So eyes should be open from here on. Let's get rid of all these keys. So we come up on the scene and he looks a little concerned, but not for long. So the next thing I would tackle is making sure these different facial controls and shapes are all happening at different times. In animation, a lot of times we talk about, the different sort of, I guess, areas and categories of the face. And so you've got the mouth, you've got sort of the middle nose area, and then you have the eyes, and then you have the eyebrows. And depending on the character, I don't know if it's an alien, maybe you have antenna, or I don't know. There could be a variety of different things, right? But you can use all of those things to emote, but they shouldn't all happen at one time. If they do, it feels very robotic, which is not what we're going for here. We're looking for something really organic. So I think my inclination here would be, and you have to try stuff out, but I think would be to maybe start the eyebrows moving first, and then that'll go into the eyes and sort of melt on to the lower part of the face. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to grab all of the eyebrows and start that transition there first. And then we'll have the eyes sort of start to close. So what I want to do is grab these eyebrows, move them back here a little ways. And the eyeballs start to go down here. Let's move this key maybe a few steps back. And the eyebrows are going to start to go down. Then we're going to start to see the eyes close. Sort of start to squint. And I bet we could squint these eyes even more. I might even actually have them come down and close. That might be cool. Yeah, let's try that. We're trying things, right? It's one of the things you have to understand about animation is you have to try things sometimes to know whether or not they're going to work. So I didn't consider this until right now, but it might be nice to have them come down and close, and then we get that sort of that change in expression. So let me grab this right here. Cool. So his eyes are closed, which is nice. So maybe they come down and the eyes close for a second and then sort of blink open. But we want them to hold. We want to make sure they don't just sort of float through that pose. So that's kind of cool. And maybe as they open, they can open a little bit, maybe not as quickly. That feels like it's still happening kind of fast. Let's move that key down a little bit. That still feels like it's happening fast. So yeah, that's looking cool. It's got a nice feel to it. Let me save this scene really quick. 190. I've got a lot of shots in this short film. I think there's 60 or something, 65 or 70 different shots in this film. So I've got a lot to keep track of. But one of the things that I like to do is save often. And you might see an icon pop up on my Maya scene. And what that is, basically, I have something set up in Maya that pops up every few minutes that says, hey, did you remember to save? I recommend turning that on because I don't know about you guys, but I'll get so laser focused on what I'm doing that a lot of times I won't even remember to save. So that's what that is if you see that icon popping up. So he looks a little too shocked here. I don't know if we want him to be that. Looks very concerned. So one of the ways we can do that, and something that feels very unnatural to me as I'm looking at this is, and again, this is an iterative process, so we're sort of figuring it out as we go, but it's very unnatural to see underneath the pupils and the whites of an eye. I mean, your eyes have to be open really wide in order to do that. So I'm just going to dial that back a little bit because that seems very, very unnatural. Cool. There we go. So eyebrows come down, eyes start to open. I think one of the things we'll do is we'll have the eyebrows. So in order to stay fleshy, I think what we'll do is we'll have them as they close. We're going to have them start to slowly come back up a little bit towards the end of the shot. Yeah, that's nice. Feels fleshy still. And something I want to do is we can add asymmetry to when that happens. So as the eyebrows come down and then sort of open back up, I think we're going to have one eyebrow start just a little bit before the other one. We're always looking for opportunities to add that sort of thing in because asymmetry is key. Nobody in their everyday life has faces that are perfectly symmetrical. Again, we're trying to get away from this robotic sort of way of thinking where everything works together and hands sort of go everywhere together. So anything we can do to break that up is really helpful. So left eyebrow over here is leading that action, and I changed it by a frame, but what I think I'm going to do is actually push this one back a frame, so there'll be 2 frames different. So this eyebrow will come up first, and that one will come up second. Cool, that's looking pretty good. So he kind of comes up, and then he starts to smile at the guy he's about to fight. Something else I'm noticing here on the face is this mouth seems to be sort of freezing when it gets to the position. So he starts to smile. It feels, yeah, doesn't feel like it continues to do anything. So we're going to adjust this. And I know because he has a beard, I need to sort of exaggerate. It might look crazy on the unbearded model, but I know from experience, anything that has fur or it has hair or characters, like you might be animating a hamster or something like I did for the film G-Force. Something we had to keep in mind for the film was that, if a smile, if you did a normal smile and then you see it rendered with the fur on there, you can't really tell that A, they're smiling, but B, if you can tell, it's not very big. It's understated. So you have to really push things when you've got characters like this that have a beard. And I'll show you what I mean. We can clearly see that he's got a smirk here. But if I turn this beard on, you can barely see that he's sort of doing anything, right? And so let's see how we can do that. See what we can do to push that smile, because we want to be able to tell that he's got that smirk, but we're losing it a bit. So let's see what we can do here. I don't know. That beard's pretty big. It's pretty furry. We're going to see what we can do here to push this. It's going to feel unnatural. It's going to feel a little weird. And it won't make sense until we get... This is nice. So I didn't realize that the other side of the mouth wasn't really moving much. So I'm going to push this a little bit and then take about halfway through that key and add it back to this so that the mouth is sort of moving. Well, that's moving too fast. Let's move this a little bit. So now mouth is moving together. Feels nice. Let's see. That's feeling nice and fleshy, which is what we want. So this corner of the mouth over here, screen left, is starting to move first. Then it's sort of pulling up the other side of the mouth, which is nice. Looks a little creepy because, again, he doesn't have the beard on there. But again, we're gonna lose a lot of that under the beard, so it's okay to push it. Something else I might even want to consider here, since we can't even see the corners of the mouth, I'm going to try opening the mouth a little bit and see what that gets us. So it's like he's smiling maybe a little bit, because we're just not seeing anything, which is kind of a bummer, right? It's like, so that might be too much. I don't know if we want that much emotion. This is supposed to be a subtle shot, so we don't want him like grinning at the other guy, That's feeling pretty good, though. We're getting the sense that he's about to chop the other guy's head off. right? Feels that way, right? Terrified, and then just kidding, I have a plan. Perfect. I'm actually going to jump back over here, turn the beard off, and try to play with the nose a little bit. I know this is something that's a little bit controversial in animation. Some projects require it. Others are, say, hey, don't touch any of the ears or the nose or anything like that. But this is a little bit more on the exaggerated style. So what I want to do is when you smile, and if you look in a mirror, you could see this, but if you smile, your ears and your nose actually move a little bit. And again, in an effort to make sure this feels fleshy, I'm actually going to move the nose up a little bit as he's starting to smile. Just a little bit, not much, but just something so he feels a little bit more fleshy. I don't know if, let's see. Yeah, just a little bit. Something like that. And your nostril sort of can flare out a little bit. So we might try to add some of that in there just to see if it helps. Especially in characters where you're losing so much emotion from the mouth. It might be a good idea to see if we can't add some of that stuff in there. So let's see. Yeah, that's feeling better. Now in this case, I'm not going to mess with the ears at all. But this will give us a chance to see some animation on something other than the mouth. It helps sell this idea that he's sort of smiling underneath there. Very cool. Something I'm going to go back and adjust now that I'm watching this sort of play out is I really want to push this eyebrow down a bit to feel a little bit more sinister. Because right now I can see under the eyebrow. And that's just kind of making him feel not as angry, not angry, but as intense as I want him to feel. So I'm going to attempt to come back in here. And when he tilts his head to the side, I want to see, is it possible? Okay, maybe not with that control. Let's see. See if I can adjust it here. Yeah, there we go. I just want to keep that eyebrow down a bit because I don't want to be able to see under it. Let's take a little bit off like that. There we go. And this eyebrow. So for those of you who are tuning in from KOD, you're probably like, this is insane. This is going to take you forever to finish this short film if this is the speed that animation goes. Yes, it does take a long time, and yes, it is a painstaking process. But for those of you who are tuning in just for the animation aspect of it or taking a look from a different perspective, you may already know that this takes a while to do. So this is sort of par for the course in terms of what your experiences have been or what you're looking at. But yeah, it does take a while. It is a process, and it's something that's sort of, some shots go really fast, some shots take a lot more time. It seems like the more simple the shot, the more difficult it can be to just nail it and make sure it's right. And one of the things I find that dictates that is, if the character is, if you're seeing the full body and they're doing something like walking or something that even someone who doesn't understand animation can see it and go, that doesn't look right. That doesn't feel right. I don't know anything about animation, but that looks weird. So a lot of people think something like a walk cycle or someone walking would be, that should be easy. They're not really acting. They're just moving. Some of the most difficult things to do because everybody knows when a character is walking, if it feels right or not. In this case, this is sort of like a smile. It doesn't really fall into that category, but you get the idea, right? It's like if I don't get this right, people are going to be like that smile feels creepy or doesn't feel right. So at this stage, this shot's looking pretty good. What I want to do now is the cameras. We've got this camera move in here, and sometimes it can be difficult to animate when you've got a camera moving. So what I'm probably going to do is switch back over to this this format. Get rid of these cameras. and make sure that the body is actually moving the way that I want it to and naturally. So he sort of settles into that. Um, hmm, Something I might do just to make this feel a little bit more believable is as he settles back over to the left, I think I'm actually going to have his body dip down a little bit because if you think about it, when you sort of shift your weight from right to left, and then what's happening out of camera is that there's a foot stepping down on the ground. And when you do that, in between a weight shift from one side to another side, the body sort of goes down a little bit, right? So if you think about it, if you lean to the right, your weight is on the right foot. If you lean to the left, your weight is on the left foot. But in between, there's an in between space where your body actually goes down a little bit. So even though we don't see that on camera, if I add that in, you're going to start to feel like the character is a bit more believable in terms of movement. So I'm going to try to add that in right here. I'm just going to sort of guess at where that might need to live. I'm going to try to do it right there, and then make sure that it doesn't get messy over here. Let's see. So I haven't stepped down too far now. So we need to take some of that out of it. But I think the idea is right, just to make sure that he's feeling believable in his action. So the camera sort of comes up and he's going to sort of step to the side and do that. Great. I think that's working. I'm going to take a look at the camera because I'm noticing that once the camera gets up here, it sort of stops moving, and we don't really want it to do that. So I'm going to take a look at the camera and see what's happening here. Some of you may be familiar with this screen right here, and some of you may be saying, I have no idea what that is. That looks crazy. And what this is basically is all the curves for all the animation that I have that's selected right now. So this is the camera. This is what the camera is doing right now. So what I'm trying to figure out is why this camera is sort of coming up here and, the camera doesn't feel like it's moving anymore. And because this is sort of a live cam, handy cam, live action sort of feel that I want to make sure gets across in this short film, I want to make sure the camera is always moving a little bit, almost like it's handheld. So I'm going to take a closer look at that and see. Cool. I'm just checking the chat really quick. Yeah, sweet. Thanks for all the comments, Chris. Yeah, that's helpful to know that you're getting the idea. So let's see. I'm gonna get this camera coming up here, and what we might do is we might actually have it overshoot a little bit. That's one of the principles, excuse me, of animation is sort of overshooting something and then coming back. So I'm going to see if I can't push this past it. So the camera comes up and then sort of starts to settle back down a little bit. And this is probably happening too fast. So as the camera comes up and we catch his face, the camera can start to sort of maybe go down a little bit. Let's see if that works. Yeah, I think that's working okay. I'm going to turn this beard off for the time being because it's chugging a little bit. So camera comes up. And then I think camera needs to sort of go screen left a little bit to follow his action. One of the things we want to make sure we're doing with the camera, if you were a live cameraman and you were filming this yourself, the idea is, the character that's on screen, they sort of move a direction. What do you automatically do? You sort of rotate the camera to follow, right? That's what you would do naturally. You do that on your phone if you're taking a picture of or a video of something on, in your everyday life. The squirrel runs across the road that you're recording, you move your camera, right? To follow the squirrel or whatever it is that you're recording. So the same concept applies here. I want to follow the dwarf with my camera. So he's starting to move screen left a little bit. So I'm just going to sort of rotate the camera. And I'm seeing here on my curves that I'm not doing that, right? It just goes flat. So I'm going to follow him a little bit more as it gets up here. So what I might do is I might start to do this and take some of this. Whoops. Take some of. Oh, that's acting crazy. I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah. Let's see if that works a little bit. So I think it needs to be more exaggerated. It needs to sort of follow him. So sometimes you can't get the camera to do exactly what you want. So you have to set an additional key. So I'm going to put a keyframe here because this automatic thing that I was getting just isn't really selling it for me. So I need to put a key here to sort of keep that camera where I want it to be. And then this will allow me to sort of adjust it a little bit better. So let's see what happens from here. Yeah. So now the camera sort of goes over here and starts to follow him a little bit more. Let's push that up a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. It's looking a lot better. Cool. All right, so let's see. So hand pose is looking good. Coming up to the face. Oops, I didn't set a key on this mouth. So it's popping back in and out of this pose. You can see right here, there's two keys here, and this looks like it's. So I'm going to get rid of this one. And I'm going to get rid of this one so it stays open when we see it. And again, it's always wise and helpful to make sure that final beard is on when testing some of this stuff out for final. That's looking cool. So something I want to add to this animation just to make it again feel a little bit more malleable is I'm gonna when he sort of blinks, I'm gonna have his shoulders sort of depressed slightly as well, just so that it's not just a reaction that's happening with his face, but it's something that filters down to different aspects of his body as well, right? So in order to do that, I'm going to get rid of the beard. I'm going to grab his shoulder controls if I can find them. Let's see. I think these are the ones. Cool. And so as this comes up and as he blinks, this will go through the face. About right here, I think I want to have his shoulders sort of go down a little bit. Yeah, that looks cool. So shoulders are going down a little bit right here and then sort of coming back up. I'll probably let that happen over this period of time right here. Not jump back up super quickly. We want those to sort of swell back up over time. Something I want to do too is I want to add some variation into that. So this left screen shoulder is going to go first. Yeah. Let's see if I can adjust that a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah, that's feeling better. Something else I'm seeing, I know I told you guys that it was going to go eyebrows, eyes, and then mouth, but I feel like the mouth is starting to move too soon. So I'm going to actually push that back a little bit so that doesn't happen. So that doesn't happen right at the same time the eyes are moving. So eyes. Okay, so this is happening too quick right here. It's jumping from there to there too quickly. So let me get rid of this keyframe. Just sort of let that. And I feel like he's getting up to this smirk a little bit too quick. And then see, nothing really happens from here to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of that time out of it and let it slowly get up there over time. So action is going from eyebrows down to eyes, and then the mouth is starting to move. Which is good. Want to see playback speed. Is this going to let me play this back a little faster? Not really. Why is that? I just want to turn this on grayscale mode really quick to see if that speeds this playback up. No, it doesn't. Play every frame. It's probably because I'm streaming. No worries, I can just scrub to see how it looks. That's cool. Yeah, I think that's looking really good. Let's add the beard back on there to make sure we didn't mess anything up. Very cool. Something else to keep in mind is I know this is just temporary lighting, but this particular short film is going to be moonlit. So what I did is I added lights into the scene. And I think this is helpful for anybody who's animating a scene. I like to add lights in that sort of have the same mood. So I get the sense of what's going to show up in the image and what's not, or on the film and what's not. So here, this is sort of the lighting, kind of the general lighting that's going to be in the film. It's going to be moonlit. So even this temporary lighting helps me sort of identify what I'm going to be able to see and what I'm probably not going to be able to see as much of. And one of the things that's jumping out to me right away is, if we have moonlight happening here, the beard is casting shadows. I'm probably not going to see that mouth. So either A, I push it a little bit more, or B, I just have to accept the fact that I'm probably not going to see much animation on the mouth, and I should probably just leave it alone, right? So, we're focusing here on the eyes and all of that, but, mouth is not something we're probably going to see as much. And it helps you sort of see the whole thing that you're working on from a different perspective. So one of the things I didn't realize, but helping going into this lighting mode, is that my eyes are not really on a third, right? So they're at the top part of the screen, and that is what we're probably going to be focusing on is the eyes. We can't really see the beard too much. The background's going to be blurred out. I don't have the blur setting set on, so you guys can't see that, but I want the eyes to make sure that they're in a place that makes sense from a design standpoint. And so in animation, we talk, or just design in general, we talk about thirds. When you're talking about image making or filmmaking, if the screen were sort of chopped up into thirds, you have one line here, and then one here and one here. Actually, you know what? I think I can turn that on. Let me toggle that on, or try to really quick. Let me see. There's a way to do it. Display options. Yeah, film gate. Let's see. Safe action. Here we go. Okay. This is kind of difficult to see, but you'll get the idea. So if you were to chop this into quadrants, not the way that it's displaying here, but if this is like a sort of a third right here, this is a third. You broke this image up into thirds, and then the same down the side. The general rule of thumb is that you want to make sure things are on a third. Right now, this is sort of coming up. The eyes are in a place where they're sort of floating somewhere between the top third and middle third. It just doesn't feel compositionally like it's as strong as it could be. So what I'm going to try to do now that I've seen this is I'm going to see if I can't push the camera up a little bit overall. So as it's coming up from this position down below, I want to see if I can't get these eyes in a place that feel a little bit better, like And this is not a guarantee that it's going to work. Rules are there to be broken, right? But a lot of times, um, you try to integrate some of these commonplace practices, and it does make your shot a lot better. Um, Now that I've tried to solve one problem, I'm kind of causing another problem. I don't know if you can see it, but I want the top of the head is sort of approaching the place where it just feels like it's cut off, not in the natural place. Um, and so that's concerning too. We talk about that in terms of there being a tangent there. And that's like when two things that shouldn't meet sort of touch and meet and make you feel, it just feels very uncomfortable. So now I'm seeing I've caused another problem with that. So what I might want to do is see if I can't push the camera up even more to eliminate that, right? And so now we really are more in that third category. But when I do that, I just made a lot of adjustments to the camera that I may not love that happen in order for us to get the camera up there in the first place. So I'll have to play that back and make sure that that works. But this feels a little bit better. We're focused in on his eyes. His eyes are sort of in the middle of the frame. We understand from a cinematography standpoint what we're looking at. He's dead center in the frame. He's the focus. There's no tangents on the top of the head sort of bothering us as viewers, taking us out of it, making a bad composition. And the eyes are the focus, which is nice. So I'm going to get us back out of that view, which was helpful because it helped me identify some things that could be stronger. This is looking stronger already. We've got the camera sort of coming up. It sweeps up into a point where we get the idea. All right, save. I need to make sure I'm saving. Nobody told me to save in the chat. I'm disappointed. All right. Great. So this is sort of a simple shot, nothing too complicated. I had a lot of animation in there already, but I don't want this video to be too long or this live stream to be too long. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned something different about the process of animation and camera and storytelling, all of those things, and more in-depth exposure to some of the things we think about when we're doing animation and 3D animation for characters specifically. So thank you guys for joining. I appreciate that. And this video will be saved. So it's something I will be able to share in the future. If this was of value to you, feel free to drop a tip into the tip jar. Would appreciate that. Yeah, thanks, Chris. I appreciate you jumping on, man. Really do. And you can find a link to that somewhere around here. I think it's in the title description of the broadcast. But yeah, I would really appreciate that as well. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys on the next one.